Liverpool when you were a kid. You talk about Klopp's team and the style, but I think the kind of culture around Liverpool has been embedded, obviously, way back. Can you talk about what that meant to you as a young kid growing up, and has it in any way kind of made you the football guy that you are?
Look, I guess like like I said before, when you're a young kid, you just sort of. I was just consumed by football, and I've said before, it wasn't just playing the game. My sort of infatuation was with all the game, and so I wanted to read about all of it. And yeah, I was fascinated by the culture at a club like Liverpool. The boot room and Shankly and Paisley and Ronnie Moran, all those guys, because I just loved reading about it, just as I was interested about reading about Sir Alex or Jock Stein or any. It seemed that even as a young age, I had a real fascination with managers, and people of influence within the game because I loved the game. So reading those kind of stories back then, that was my sort of escape. We all as kids, like I said, have something that we love and takes us away from the world we were in, and that was my world. I just loved reading about the history of football clubs and the great people within them, and certainly Liverpool at the time. I thought, there was always a unique story there about this mythical boot room where all the magic sort of happened, and for me it was almost like reading fairy tales at the time. So that was my way of, like I said, creating the world, and obviously that has an influence. Yeah, it does, because that's where all the seeds are planted of my love for the game. But I don't think that's any different from anyone else who sort of has a real passion about something. There's always those seeds are usually sown at a young age where we're in our rooms and we create these worlds for ourselves.
Just you've probably answered this before, apologies, but who were the posters of when you were a kid? Which kind of players are we talking about here?
Oh, mate, I was mad about Kenny Dalglish. Everything was about Dalglish for me. So whether that was Celtic or Liverpool, I was a mad Kenny fan, mate.
I believe it's 50 games in a row at home you're undefeated in a run that goes all the way back to Japan. What do you think has been the key to that run? And do you feel that this might be the biggest test yet, given the form Liverpool have?
Over those 50 games, mate, I've had some big tests. I've had some good teams, to be fair, but I don't know. I think I said last week, I do put a lot of stock in home form, because I think that's the time where you can give your supporters, who are going to be the majority in the stadium, that feeling that you want to give them, of experiencing their team winning a game of football. So, I have put a lot of stock in that, but it's 50 games against all types of oppositions under the different types of circumstances. There would have been games in there we were down to 10 men. There would have been games in there we were down, 2 weeks ago in the 95th minute. So, there are always tests to go for that long. So, I've probably been lucky along the way too. But
just back to Sonny, I think Jurgen Klopp once described him as the biggest mistake of his career from a transfer point of view, missing out on him. I know obviously you had your hands full with Celtic last season, so I don't know how much you were following Spurs last year or how much you reviewed it. His form, his turnaround has been pretty impressive so far. What do you put that down to? And also, is there any one particular player that you view as your biggest ever mistake of missing out on the transfer market?
in terms of Sonny, I think it's fair to say, and Sonny said it himself. I don't think he was 100% fit last year, but that's his nature. That he would if asked to play, he would play. Do his utmost, and that I think that probably affected his form more than anything else. I think last year was a bit of a unique year for a lot of players because of the World Cup. I just don't think it was a normal year in many respects for top players. But look, the quality Sonny has, there's no doubt. That he was. I don't think I've done anything dramatic to him. I think he's just feels better. He's had a good pre-season, and he loves playing for this football club. And I think the way we're playing now, really suits him where he's at in his career. And I'm sure there's more to come. Oh, mate, I've probably made 1,000 mistakes. Who knows? You kind of follow all these players, and you think, you got close to a few of them and you didn't get them. But such is life, mate. We all make mistakes, and we all learn from them.
David?
Hi, I'm Davide from Italy, so sorry about two Italian questions about your two Italian players. I'll start with Vicario.
No need to apologise, mate. It's okay. All right.
You made him your starting goalkeeper from the beginning. What did you see in him, and what is it doing to convince yourself week after week that he's your number?
Yeah, look, obviously it was probably the priority position when I came in because, at the time it looked like Hugo was moving on, but there was a need for a new starting goalkeeper. And, it's one of those things where you kind of get presented with some options. And I just really liked Vic from the start in terms of the characteristics he has, as a goalkeeper, in terms of his general goalkeeping ability, his agility, his demeanor and his character around the game. And then I spoke to him, and he's such an infectious personality. He was so determined that, he wanted to come to Tottenham and prove himself at the next level. And when you look at his career, he hasn't had a long time at the top level, and I've said that before, similar to Mickey van der Ven and a couple of others. I like players who've worked their way up from a low level very quickly, because it shows that they adapt very quickly, but also that they're coachable. They learn, because you have to, and you look at Vic, and he's taken big steps very, very quickly, and I think he's been outstanding for us for the first 6 or 7 games. He's been a real strong influence on the field in the big moments, when we've needed him. And the good thing is, every day he comes in and he wants to improve, and that's exactly what we need.
With Destiny, the way he's playing is surprising a lot of people also in Italy. What do you see him at? Obviously, we're talking about a 20-year-old with a lot of potential.
Yeah, and again, when I obviously got the role, I had to look at all the players who were out on loan last year, and Destiny was one. And again, I really liked his profile. He was, physically, he's got outstanding attributes, but he obviously played a different sort of style of football in terms of, a lot of times he was used as an attacking wing back, and made a real impact in a tough league as a young man. The Serie A is a tough league, and he just handled himself really well. And again, it was one of those where when we got him in, I could see that he just wants to improve every day, and he's got outstanding attributes. And like I said, for a 20-year-old, he's already had some really big challenges defensively, and he's handled himself so well. And when he has the ball and he runs forward, he looks exciting. So really pleased to have him in the group.
He's going from Saka last Sunday to Salah.
Yeah. Well, that's the Premier League, and that's why he's here, and there's no greater learning curve for him, and that's I love about that. And the good thing is, you saw last week, he had to work really hard against a top opponent, but in the end, I thought he came out pretty good, and like I said, he can't rest on that, because now he's got Salah this week, and then he'll have somebody else. It'll be a Grealish or somebody else coming up in the next weeks, and he's got to cope with all of it. But so far, he's doing very well.
Done.
Just following up on that, Ange, we're often told by managers that young players coming to the Premier League will need a long time or some time to adapt. But in the case of Vicario, Van der Ven, Udogie, and to an extent Porro and Sarr as well, who didn't play much last season, they all look really at home pretty quickly. Beyond good scouting, what's the secret? How do you think that's happened?
It just depends. I can understand. Sometimes you've got to make sure that young players are going to be able to handle, what comes playing at this level, and you certainly don't want to expose them too early, because it can have a detrimental effect. But I've always felt, again, it's something that's been consistent when I'm building teams, that I try and give them as much security as I possibly can, for them to know that there's nothing that's going to happen out there that's going to be terminal in terms of their careers. You know, don't stress about the mistakes. Don't stress about you know, you're not playing well. You know, I'll back you as long as I'm seeing you know, that you're improving and you're working hard and you're doing all the things that we need you to do. That because part of that when you're a young player is that stress of, you know, feeling like you have to really play well to keep your place in the team, and fearing that if you make a mistake in front of the whole world that, you know, that's going to cost you something. And so I've always tried, particularly in the early stage, because it's not just about the young players, all of us are in the same boat, you know, where we're setting off on a new course and there's potential there that it won't work, and we're all feeling the same. I'm no different to them, you know, because I'm sure if we had started the first, you know, 7 games and we were, you know, on 2 wins instead of the wins we're on, I'm sure the heat would have been on me right now. But it's not how I think. It's not how I I'm wired. I don't care about that. This is what we're doing. We're going to go down this road. We'll be successful. And I try and provide that framework. So at least it releases that anxiety, hopefully, and then they can play as themselves. And then it's up to them. There's no guarantees. If their performance drops, then of course they won't play. But I think that helps, you know, the young players sort of at least focus on, like I said, being as much themselves without stressing too much about outcomes.
And just a quick one on Richarlison. You said you're one short in the wide areas. Do you see him playing wide when Sonny's up front, or would you always kind of have him with
No, yeah, right. I mean, Richie does have, you know, he's played there quite extensively during his career, left and right, and yeah, no, he does give us, you know, that option should be needed, you know, in games moving forward. So I think, you know, the fact that him and Sonny, you know, can play both central and wide, I think is going to be helpful to us moving forward.
Okay, we've got time for a couple more, Tom, and then finish with Darren, please.
And you spoke before about how you watched a lot of games with your dad and on the telly, not necessarily any Liverpool games that sort of stood out when you were a kid, I guess, in the 70s, the European Cup finals.
Yeah, European Cup finals, definitely. They beat Tottenham, I think, 7 or 8-1. That was pretty memorable.
Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I watched all of them, mate. That's what I'm saying. I didn't miss anything, mate. So I watched them all. You know, I taped them. I watched them. We had tapes. You know what tapes are? You know, like videos. You put them in, record. Mate, used to, yeah, like when they won the European Cups. Yeah, loved it, mate. Because you got to remember that's 4 a.m. for me as a 11-year-old. You know, so fair bit of commitment to get up and watch them. But yeah, I remember all those games. I do, bizarrely. I don't know what to do with them, but I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to stuff I grew up with, so they're in boxes somewhere.
There was a sense, I guess, of Liverpool and Manchester United particularly being huge clubs around the world abroad. Did you get a sense of them growing up in Australia? You know, those were the clubs that was
Yeah, because I felt that in my environment. Like I said, all my mates were either Liverpool or Man United supporters, because there was just a real focus, and if you get, you know, we'd get a game a week, invariably it was one of those 2 teams, so you're always attracted to those teams. Like the FA Cup final was always a massive game in Australia to watch, and during the 70s, Liverpool, Man United were always in it. So, you know, like when you're a young person, you know, I just look at it, the circle of influence around me, they were always the teams that sort of get highlighted in that part of the world.
Darren, last one, please.
Don't know, just like it was just at that time where, you know, I was 12, 13, and you know we look for heroes, you know, in our lives, and he was it for me, you know, scoring European Cup finals, and you know, just the way he played, and there was something different about him, and you know, it was just like I said, when you're a young kid, you're looking for heroes, and it was him and the Fonz, mate. A sad existence, isn't it? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Since he's left, Spurs are the joint 3rd highest scorers in the Premier League. What does that say about a team that we expected to fall apart?
Yeah, again, credit to the players for that, you know, because it's not an insignificant thing when, you know, a striker who, you know, you've just seen what he's gone and done at, you know, in the Bundesliga already. He's a world-class striker. He's, you know, he's he's not the best. He's in the top 3, you know. So when you lose somebody of that significance, it can have an impact. But yeah, the players have sort of not used that as a clutch or an excuse. You know, they've embraced the fact, okay, we just got to get on with it. You know, football clubs, our supporters are still coming to support us. They weren't here supporting Harry; they were here supporting Tottenham. You know, and that's for every football club. You know, they support the club, and clubs move on quickly, and we had to move on quickly. There was no point feeling sorry for ourselves, and you know, and there was no doubt that the area that was going to get highlighted if we struggled was if we didn't score goals, because that was the obvious one. So I think it's helped that, you know, the lads have sort of embraced that part of our game. Certainly a big part of the way I set the team up to have threats in all different areas, and it's been great to see that our goals have come from, you know, different avenues: set pieces, counter attacks, you know, build up play, last minute, you know, come from behind. So I think that's been great, because it doesn't allow that narrative that, you know, could have been very easy for it to run to say, well, you know, if we hadn't started well and it was because of lack of goals, they'd be saying, well, you know, we haven't replaced Harry. But I think people are seeing in the team that, you know, we're playing in a certain way now where they're more interested in seeing how this team develops rather than what's missing.
Jurgen's been quite complimentary about you in the last hour or so, and the way that your teams play. Is it true that you model your teams on the Puskás that you played under Melbourne?
I don't know if I modelled, but yeah, not modelled it, but certainly he was an influence, because he just, you know, I think I said when he took over with us, it was, you know, 91, I think. Everyone in Australia at the time, and I think on the back of what they were seeing over here, was literally playing 4-4-2. There was no wingers really back then in that era of football, but he just loved wingers, and, you know, we played with wingers, and, you know, the wingers' instructions were that, you know, to stay wide and never come back, which wasn't great for me. I was the fullback, so but it really made an impact on me that he was a guy that he was going against trends and what convention said, because 4-4-2 seemed to be a more solid, more sort of conventional way of playing. And he said, no, the game's about goals, and you can't score goals unless you've got more attacking players. And he said it's better having 3 attacking players rather than 2. And those kind of things have an impact for sure, in sort of the way I then sort of frame my own sort of philosophy around the game.
Just one more from me. I noticed when you are on the touchline, you're very different to Liverpool. It's all action. It's very emotional. You're very chill and relaxed. Is that stress related? Is that, you know, do you make a conscious effort to calm down over the years?
Yeah. Look, I've had my moments, but yeah, I think with those things, you can only just be yourself. That's who I am as a person. I think I've said before, I watch a game of football like I watch a movie. I concentrate. I look at it. I don't like people talking to me. I don't like being distracted. And to be fair, I think I've sort of, you know, probably gone down even a level in recent years because of VAR, mate. I don't want to look like a clown either, because you can be celebrating and get chalked out. So I always got this thing in the back of my head saying, let's just wait and see what the outcome is. But it is who I am as a person, and I really feel my role on game day is to make sure that I'm totally in the game, focus as much as I can. And I think that depends on your personality. Whereas, you know, I think that's how Jurgen is, and that's how, say, Mikel is, or Pep, or these guys. You see them, and that's who they are as people, and that's how they get themselves. And you're probably right. A lot of it is probably stress related. It's how we cope with stress, and we all cope with it differently. That's my coping mechanism. But yeah, beyond that, like I said, I'm just myself out there, mate. I try and do my role in the game on the day of the game, rather than sort of get sort of too emotional in it.
Okay. Thanks very much,
Thank you.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.